Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In this episode of JavaScript Fundamentals, we will cover control flow by answering what it is and how to use it. So, what is control flow? Well, in computer science, it is the order in which individual statements, instructions, or function calls are executed. Just like you, who reads text from top to bottom, the browser reads JavaScript file in the same manner and executes commands one by one. But what if we want to execute the same instruction multiple times, or maybe go to some command only in certain situations? For that, we have different kinds of control flow statements, with two of them, conditionals and loops, being such a fundamental blocks of programming that you can find them in every high-level language. Let's look at conditionals first. There are a few keywords that we can use, and the most basic of them is if statement. The name speaks for itself. Basically, you define the condition, the logic statement that must be evaluated to true in order for a certain block of code to be executed. We can also use Boolean properties or variables instead. This is also a perfect opportunity to cover a few very important concepts: comparison, logical operations, and scope, starting with the latter. In JavaScript, there are basically four different types of scope: global, module, function, block. We will not be covering modules in this series since they are for more advanced users, so this one is out of the way. Function scope will be discussed in functions episode, so let's take a look at the remaining two. But first, let's get the definition of a scope. Scope is the current context of execution in which values and expressions are visible and can be referenced. Up until this moment, we were writing code in global scope. Everything is on the same level, everything is visible.
Life good.
But we also have block scope, which is created with the pair of curly braces. Basically, anything that has these bad boys will create its own scope, meaning that if I define something inside of that, for example a variable, it will be available only within that scope. Let's see some examples. As you can see, x is available inside block scope of if, but outside of it, it's not. By the way, here lies one of the main problems with var. Remember how I was saying that when declaring a variable with this keyword, you might end up finding it in unexpected places? Now, when you know what scope is, you can understand the root cause of this issue, which is the fact the variable defined with var respects only function and global context, but completely ignores block scope. So here in our example, if I replace let with var, suddenly x is visible outside of if statement. That can lead to the whole bunch of problems. For example, overriding value of the variable with the same name that already exists in a higher scope. Again, this is not the issue with let, since it prohibits declaration of the variable with already taken name. But var does not see any issue with that and simply overrides existing value. So if we get back to our if statement, you can see that this can lead exactly to these kind of situations. So let's revert our code and take a look. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about comparison operators. Let's rewrite our code once again. We have less than, greater than, less than or equal, greater than or equal, and of course, equal, not equal. However, when it comes to these two, it is crucial to remember one very important detail. JavaScript is a weakly typed language. As we could see, quite an extreme case actually, which means that during comparison, we might end up with some rather counterintuitive results. For example, this or that. As you can see, console log is executed, meaning that expression above is true. The reason this is happening is the same as why you are able to seamlessly add number to a string. Type coercion, which implicitly tries to convert one data type into another, in order to ensure that statement makes any sense. To avoid such situations, JavaScript has an additional comparison operator called strict equal, which not only compares values, but also data types. So if we use triple equal sign, we can see that we are back on track to sanity. And of course, there is strict not equal available to us. So yeah, all of these auto-conversions can lead to confusion. But because JavaScript is so keen to make sense out of the code we write, it also creates a very sweet, concise syntactic patterns that we can use. For example, in context of our if statement, which expects a boolean, JavaScript naturally tries to convert any value to it. For example, if I have an object and I want to check if it has any value, instead of writing all of that, I can simply use a variable name. You will see this pattern quite often in JavaScript code. Basically, it's like a short version of saying if variable exists, then do something. And that syntax leads us to the concept of falsy and truthy values. A falsy value is a value that is considered false when encountered in Boolean context. Here is the table with a complete list of falsy values. Truthy value, surprise surprise, is a value that is considered true in Boolean context. So basically everything outside of this table. So getting back to our example, we can see that if the variable is undefined and giving that undefined is falsy value, the variable is auto-converted to false, and so we do not enter the if statement. Okay, now with that covered, let's talk a little bit about logical operations. There are three fundamental operators: AND, OR, NOT. There are basics of Boolean algebra, and they are pretty much self-explanatory, but in case you forgot, here's the table. So, let's see how we can use them in our code. To use an AND, we type double ampersand. To use OR, we type double vertical bar. And to use NOT, we prepend Boolean value with exclamation mark. Now, before we proceed, I wanted to let you know about one very nice feature called short circuit evaluation. Basically, since logical expressions are evaluated from left to right, a certain shortcuts can be identified. For example, if we have an AND operator and the first parameter is false, there is no reason to check the second one, since regardless of its value, the entire operation will return false. The same goes for OR, but other way around. If the first parameter is true, the output will be always true regardless of the value of the second one. This gives us an opportunity to write our code in a more concise way. Let me show you an example. So we have already learned what undefined is. It basically indicates that variable has no value assigned to it. Now let's witness one of the most common errors in JavaScript. If you try to access some property of something that doesn't exist, you get this error. Now, without short circuit, we would have to write our code like this. First check if object exists, and only then try to access its property. But thanks to short circuit, we can rewrite it in more compact way. If x is undefined, it will be converted to false. And since the first operand of AND is false, the rest is simply ignored and not evaluated. And because of that, x.a doesn't throw an error. This example is also a perfect opportunity to quickly show you something called optional chaining. Nowadays, it allows you to have even shorter version of the same code. The optional chaining operator looks like this: dot with a question mark before it. Just like a regular dot, it accesses an object's property. But if the object is undefined or null, the expression short circuits and evaluates to undefined instead of throwing an error. Let's rewrite our example. As we can see, while x is undefined, accessing its property will not throw an error, but instead return undefined. Okay, I think we have deviated from the main topic far enough. Let's come back to our if statements, because it's not the only keyword we can use. In addition to if, we also have optional else keyword. If you add it, code inside else will be executed if the condition is evaluated to false. In addition to that, there is one more thing. By combining these two, we get else if. It provides an alternative condition that should be checked before else. We can have as many of them as we want. Here's an example. In addition to if statements, we also have switch. This one works differently though. Instead of condition that should be true or false, you pass an expression which is evaluated and then compared against a series of cases. If a match is found, then it triggers the execution of the provided set of statements. But here's the important detail. A so-called fall-through can happen. You see, if some case has a match, it will execute not only code from that case, but also code from all other cases below, unless break keyword is encountered. Break basically means full stop for loops and switch statements. That's why it is advised to have it inside each case. Switch also has optional default case, which is supposed to be executed if all others fail to match the expression. Now, if you ask what is the point of switch if we already have ifs, I would say that you are not the only one asking that question. While it is true that there is no situation where switch cannot be replaced by a bunch of else ifs, in some cases, switch is just more readable option. For example, if you have a simple value check with a lot of options. Now, before we proceed to loops, there is one more important conditional that I wanted to show you, so-called ternary operator. You'll probably see that one a lot, because it's a very handy short option to write an if-else statement. It looks like this: condition, question mark, expression to execute if the condition is true, colon, and finally expression to execute if the condition is false. Simple, right? For example, instead of writing all of this, I can have it in one line. Okay, now we can finally go to loops. Loops allow us to do something repeatedly. There are many different kinds of them, but at the end of the day, they all do the same thing. They repeat a specified set of commands a certain number of times. Let's start with while. It executes the statements as long as specified condition is true. Let's take a look at some examples. So here, as long as x is smaller than 10, we will print it out and increase x by 1. Now there are also some useful keywords that we can use within loops. We already saw break, which allows us to exit the loop. But we also have continue keyword. This one allows us to skip the current iteration of the loop. Okay, now there is also one very important detail. When we are using loops of any kind, it is important to avoid so-called infinite loops, where condition never becomes false, and so the loop never terminates, forever executing the same code over and over again. Because of that, infinite loops can crash the page, or sometimes even the entire browser. In our example, if we forget to increase x inside of while loop, x will forever stay 0, and so the condition will always be true. In contrast to that, if our condition is false from the very beginning, for example, if initial value of x is 100, we will simply never enter the loop. To overcome this, we have do while. The syntax looks like that: something while the condition is true. It works exactly the same as while, but there is one important difference. The specified statements will be executed at least once before the condition is checked, which means that even if condition is false from the very start, the code still will be executed, but only one time. Okay, let's take a look at another very common loop, so-called for loop. This one consists of 3 parts. Initialization, where we usually define a variable which will serve as a counter. Condition, which will force loop go into the next iteration while it's true. And afterthought, an expression which will be executed in each iteration, usually updating the variable we defined in the first part. And of course inside, there are a bunch of statements we plan to execute. Now, it may look like a lot, but in reality, it is the same thing we were doing with while. Let's see. Initialization, condition, afterthought, statement. Now, for loops are usually used to iterate over arrays. So the most common for loop you will see most likely will look like this. Variable named I is defined. I is short for index. Its initial value is 0, since as we remember, array indices start with 0. Then the condition, while I is smaller than the length of the array. Then, during each iteration, we increase I by 1 using postfix increment operator. Then, inside for loop, we use I as index to get an element of the array. But there is also another, shorter way we can write this for loop using for of statement. The syntax looks like this. Basically, what you are doing here is iterating over array and on each turn defining a variable and assigning a current element to that variable. So we can rewrite our example, and this time the variable is holding not the index of the element, but the element itself. Now there is also a third version, for in statement, and this one iterates over the properties of an object. Let's take a look. So as we remember, objects usually have some properties which are essentially a key-value pair, where key is the name of the property and value, well, is the value of that property. Important detail that you have to keep in mind when using for in statement is that the variable holds not the value of the property, but its name. But now we have a problem. You see, till this point, we were using only one syntax pattern to access object's property, the dot. But if we try to do something like that with our variable, it won't work, because JavaScript will not resolve it as let's get the value of this variable and treat it as a property name. Instead, it will look for the property with the name of the variable that we are using. Luckily, we have another syntax that we can use. Object, square brackets, property name. This is another way of accessing object's property, and with that syntax, variable value is used instead of its name. As you can see, works like a charm. With that being said, we have covered all types of loops and conditions. In the next episode, we will get our hands on functions. See you there! Don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and of course subscribe. Bye!